I stand rooted in our Connecticut penthouse, the chill of the marble floor seeping through my bare feet as my phone screen ignites with a message that shatters 10 years of marriage like glass under a hammer. Emma, I'm leaving you. It reads the words from Nathan. My husband, a biotech CEO, whose velvet charm once felt like a vow sealed in moonlight. Lila's my future. Talk to my lawyer. That cold, careless jab, each letter a splinter in my heart, mocks the life I built. The novels I shelved, the nights I spent bolstering his empire, while he called me a failure behind my back. Across town in the dazzling blur of a Westport rooftop bar, Nathan lifts a glass to Lila Brooks, a social media star whose flowing gown shimmers under neon lights. Her bold smile, a banner of ambition and calculated allure. Their laughter, sharp and carefree, cuts through the night as they toast a future forged on my ruins. Certain I'm drowning in tears and unpaid bills, a discarded wife too weak to rise. But they don't know Emma Harper. I'm 38, a divorce attorney who's unraveled fortunes in courtrooms, the woman who traded dreams for Nathan's biotech throne, who endured his gala, sneers with a smile. Tonight, I'm a tempest in a tailored suit, striding into their glittering sanctuary with a prenup clause that's sharper than any blade I glide to their table, my heels striking the floor like a judge's gavel. My heart, a war drum cloaked in a poised facade. Nathan's smirk wavers, his eyes narrowing as I place a cream-colored envelope before them. Its contents, a legal guillotine poised to slice half his $20 million empire. Enjoy your freedom, Nathan. I say, my voice smooth as silk, each word a spark of the fury I've held back for too long. Lila's fingers tighten on her glass, her influencer mask cracking, and the air hums with the promise of a reckoning that will rewrite their story and mine. This isn't just a tale of a marriage gutted by betrayal. It's the story of a woman who saw through the lies, turned pain into power, and made a traitor pay with the empire he thought was his. How far would you go when the man you loved calls you worthless? Stay with me this fight. My fight will make you question everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and the strength to rise. Picture a Connecticut summer 10 years ago, the kind where fireflies weave through the dusk and the air carries the sweet tang of honeysuckle. That was Nathan and me, Emma Harper, tangled in each other's arms on a threadbare couch in our cramped New Haven apartment. Our laughter mingling with the fizz of dollar store wine. I was 28, a budding divorce attorney with a desk piled high with case files and unwritten novels, my eyes bright with dreams of justice and prose. Nathan, my college sweetheart, was a biotech dreamer, his crooked smile and relentless ambition, promising a future we'd build together. We're unstoppable, Emma, he'd murmur, his lips grazing my ear, as we sketched plans for a penthouse, 3 kids, a legacy, where my sacrifices would lift his star. I believed him trading my stories for his startup, convinced our love was a fortress no storm could breach. Fast forward to 3 years ago, and that fortress was a mirage, its walls polished but brittle. Our Westport penthouse, with its skyline views and sleek marble counters, was the envy of the local elite, the kind of place featured in Architectural Digest. But cold as a stranger's touch, I'd become the perfect CEO's wife, orchestrating charity galas, juggling Liam and Sophie's school schedules, smiling through Nathan's late-night board meetings with a grace I mistook for strength. But the cracks were there, subtle. At first, like veins in a marble slab. Nathan, now 40, and a biotech titan, wasn't the man who'd shared my cheap wine. His meetings bled into dawn, his excuses. It's a critical merger, Emma delivered with a glance at his locked phone. His wardrobe shifted to flashy designer suits, reeking of a new musky cologne that wasn't mine. You're too plain, Emma, he'd snap, eyeing my tailored blazers with a sneer. Try being less lawyerly. Then came Lila Brooks. I first saw her at Nathan's company gala, a vision in a sequined gown that clung like a second skin. Her bold makeup and cascading curls, a stark contrast to my understated elegance. Lila, 28, was no mere guest. She was a social media influencer. Her Instagram, a shrine to luxury and ambition. Her 1 million followers, a testament to her curated allure. She glided through the ballroom, her laughter a siren's call, her hand lingering on Nathan's arm as he beamed with a pride I hadn't seen in years. My stomach knotted, a warning I smothered with a gulp of Pinot Noir. She's just a collaborator, I told myself, echoing Nathan's casual mentions of her marketing genius. Love blinds you, doesn't it? Or maybe it was the weight of 10 years, the fear of admitting the man who called me his partner was chasing a glossier prize. The fracture deepened 6 months ago at a biotech fundraiser I'd spent weeks planning. Dressed in a sapphire gown, I was mid-conversation with a board member when Nathan cut in his voice, loud enough to turn heads. "Emma, you're boring the man." He barked, his eyes flashing with disdain. "Stick to the guest list, not the vision." The room froze, my cheeks flaming as I forced a smile, the perfect wife papering over his cruelty. In the car later, he doubled down. "Lila says, women need to shine, not lecture. You're dragging me down." Emma, Lila says. Those words burrowed into my chest like thorns, each mention of her name, a reminder of my fading place in his world. My paralegal Rachel Klein saw the shift, but her warning stung worse. "He stressed Emma," she said over coffee, her fork poking at a scone. "Don't make waves, you're the perfect couple." Was I the paranoid wife spinning tales from cologne and gala glances, or the fool clinging to a marriage already sinking in sand? I'm Emma, and those cracks, Nathan's barbs. Lila's brazen charm, my own denial, were the prelude to a betrayal I never saw coming. I thought I was the glue holding our empire together, but I was standing on a fault line, waiting for the quake. This isn't just about a marriage unraveling. It's about the moment I stopped being Nathan's shadow and started forging my own light. Want to know what I found when I looked closer? The truth is darker than you think. Stay with me. I stood in our Westport penthouse, the morning rain drumming a restless beat against the towering glass as I rifled through Nathan's briefcase for tax documents he'd sworn were urgent. It was a Tuesday, 7:12 a.m. The kids already whisked to school, Liam with his debate notes, Sophie clutching her art portfolio. I was just another Connecticut wife sorting through the chaos of a CEO's life. The rhythm of duty, a shield against Nathan's late nights and cutting jabs. But then tucked beneath a stack of biotech contracts, his phone buzzed its screen, flashing a notification from an Instagram account I didn't recognize. Lila VP. My fingers froze, the air thickening as I swiped, revealing a hidden profile brimming with selfies of Lila Brooks, her bold lipstick and designer bags a stark contrast to my tailored blazers. A message popped up. "Last night was magic, Nathan. When do you ditch the boring lawyer?" My breath caught the room spinning as I scrolled through 8 months of betrayal. Steamy texts, photos of Lila in candlelit bars, Nathan's replies mocking my dull life. "Emma's at another deposition," he wrote in. "One thinks I'm closing a deal. Can't wait to wake up to you." Each word was a shard of glass slicing through the illusion of our 10-year marriage. My mind churned, conjuring excuses, maybe a prank, a colleague's phone, but my gut. That quiet sentinel I'd silenced for too long roared the truth. Nathan was cheating. I sank onto the leather couch, the penthouse's skyline view, mocking my crumbling world. Should I scream smash his phone? But the Westport wife in me, trained to polish over cracks, kept my hands steady even as my heart fractured. Nathan's key turned in the lock, his silhouette filling the doorway as I clutched the phone, its screen still glowing with Lila's words. I forced a smile, handing him his coffee espresso. No sugar the way he demanded while my thoughts raged. big day at the office, I asked my voice a tightrope. My eyes locked on his. He nodded, oblivious, his flashy suit, reeking of that musky cologne I'd come to hate. That night, after the kids were tucked in, I locked our bedroom door, the same room where we'd planned our future, where I'd cradled Sophie through nightmares. "Are you sleeping with Lila Brooks?" I asked, my tone a blade steady, despite the storm inside. Nathan didn't flinch. He tossed his tie onto the dresser, his eyes cold as steel. "Yes," he said, his voice a whip. "You're a failure. Emma, Lila's my match. She shines, you just exist." His words landed like a fist, each one, a verdict on my sacrifices, 10 years of sidelining my novels, of crafting his gala, speeches of believing we were partners. I wanted to rage, to tear down the penthouse's pristine facade, but a deeper wound festered. The betrayal wasn't just Lila. It was the cruelty in his texts, the way he'd erased me as a footnote in his glittering story. Westport's elite, with their charity brunches and whispered rules, had drilled into me to stay silent, to be the wife who doesn't make waves. Even Rachel, my paralegal, had urged caution. "Don't push him, Emma, you're the perfect couple." Was I the fool for trusting him, or the failure he claimed I stood there? The phone's secrets heavy in my hand, and made a vow I wouldn't shatter. I'd strike. "I'm Emma," and that hidden account. Those venomous words weren't just the end of my marriage, they were my awakening. While Nathan plotted his escape with Lila, I was gathering the fragments of my life, ready to forge them into a weapon. This isn't just about catching a cheater, it's about a woman who saw the truth in betrayal's mirror and chose to rewrite her story. Want to know the ace I held to turn his empire against him? The battle's just beginning. Stay with me. I sat across from Rachel Klein, my paralegal and confidant, in a Westport coffee shop, the bitter aroma of espresso mingling with the weight of Nathan's betrayal. His words, "You're a failure." Emma still echoed each syllable, a splinter lodged in my heart. But the sting of his affair with Lila Brooks was no longer just pain. It was fuel. The rain-soaked morning had left me raw, the hidden Instagram account a bomb that had detonated my 10-year marriage. Yet here in this cozy nook with its exposed brick and chalkboard menus, I was no longer the Westport wife who smoothed over cracks. I was Emma Harper, a divorce attorney who'd toppled tycoons in court, and I was ready to fight Rachel's eyes sharp. Behind her glasses met mine as she leaned forward. "Emma, you're not done yet," she said, her voice a lifeline. "Remember the prenup." The prenup. That single word hit like a spark in the dark, igniting a memory I'd buried under years of trust. 10 years ago, when Nathan's biotech startup was just a dream, I'd insisted on a clause. If he cheated, I'd claim half his company, now worth $20 million. I'd laughed it off. Then a formality inked in our giddy haze of love, but Nathan's signature had sealed his fate. I raced home, the penthouse's marble floors echoing under my frantic steps, and tore through our safe. My fingers trembling as I unearthed the yellowed document. There it was, in black and white. In the event of infidelity, Emma Harper is entitled to 50% of Nathan Powell's business assets. My heart pounded not with triumph, but with a dawning power, a hidden ace I'd almost forgotten in my Westport fog of duty. The phone rang, shattering the silence. It was Tom Grayson, Nathan's lawyer, his voice dripping with the smug confidence of a man expecting a quick surrender. "Emma, let's make this easy." He said his words slick as his pinstripe suit. "Sign the papers, move on." Nathan's offering a fair settlement fare. The word was a mockery, a Westport platitude meant to keep wives quiet. I gripped the prenup, its edges biting my palm, and smiled into the receiver. "Tom, you might want to check Nathan's file again," I said, my tone a velvet blade. "We'll talk soon." Rachel's warning echoed as I hung up. He'll fight dirty Emma. Nathan's not used to losing. The Westport elite, with their manicured lawns and whispered rules, expected me to fold to play the gracious ex-wife who doesn't rock the boat. But I wasn't their puppet anymore. I was a lawyer. And this was my courtroom. My mind churned a battlefield of doubt and determination. Could I face Nathan in court knowing his cruelty would be laid bare for Westport to judge? Or would I falter, crushed by the weight of their whispers? She's too aggressive, too cold. I thought of my friend Tina, who'd ignored her husband's affair and lost her savings in a divorce. Her tears a warning of what surrender costs. A 2024 Forbes study flashed in my mind. 70% of women lose significant assets in divorce without legal leverage. That wouldn't be me. The prenup wasn't just paper. It was my shield, my sword, my chance to rewrite the story Nathan thought he'd scripted. I stood in the penthouse, the city skyline glittering beyond, and felt the shift. I wasn't fighting for revenge, I was fighting for me. I'm Emma. And that prenup wasn't just a clause. It was my lifeline, a spark in the ashes of Nathan's betrayal. While he schemed with Lila, dreaming of a future free of me, I was sharpening my blade to carve his empire in two. This isn't just about a contract. It's about a woman who found power in the ruins of love and dared to play her ace. Want to know how I built the case to bring him down? The war's heating up. Stay with me. I sat hunched over my laptop in the Westport penthouse, the city skyline, a cold constellation beyond the glass. Nathan's betrayal, a fire in my veins. His cruel words, "You're a failure, Emma," and Lila Brooks' smug texts still seared my mind. But the prenup, that hidden ace, had shifted the game. It wasn't enough to know Nathan's sins. I needed proof, an ironclad case to carve his 20 million empire in two. The Emma, who'd once polished Nathan's gala speeches, was gone, replaced by a divorce attorney with a mission to unravel every thread of his deceit. The Westport elite, with their charity brunches and whispered edicts, would have clutched their pearls at my audacity. Good wives don't dig, they said. But I wasn't a wife anymore. I was a hunter, and every keystroke was a step toward justice. My first move was hiring Vince Russo, a private investigator whose grizzled face and cigarette-stained fingers promised discretion. Over diner coffee, its bitter steam curling between us, Vince delivered a bombshell. Nathan had funneled $500,000 to offshore accounts, masked as consulting fees, but traced to Lila's luxury trips, Maldives villas, Paris penthouses. Each transaction was a betrayal, a dollar stolen from the life I'd built. But money was only half the story. I reached out to Dr. Karen Walsh, a former colleague of Nathan's at his biotech firm, now running a modest clinic outside Hartford. Her office, cluttered with patient files and faded diplomas, smelled of antiseptic and regret. "Emma," she said, her voice heavy, "Nathan's been bribing regulators to fast-track his drugs. Those offshore accounts, they're tied to it." She slid a USB drive across her desk, its contents, emails, ledgers, proof of Nathan's corruption entwined with his affair. But I needed Nathan's own words, a confession to seal his fate. I became a ghost in my own life, smiling at Liam's soccer games, helping Sophie with her sketches. While my nights burned with strategy, I contacted Marissa, a Westport mom whose husband's affair had left her penniless, her story a mirror to mine. We met in her cluttered kitchen, her eyes red but fierce. "They call us vengeful," she said, gripping her tea. "But we're just fighting for what's ours." Her courage steeled me, but Westport's whispers grew louder. "Emma's too intense," they hissed at school pickups. "She's tearing her family apart." Their judgment gnawed at me. Was I saving my kids' future or destroying their father, Rachel? My paralegal saw the toll. "You're obsessed," she warned over wine. Her brow furrowed. "What if this costs you everything?" Her doubt echoed my own, but Karen's USB, Vince's ledgers, kept me pushing forward. The breakthrough came during a custody meeting with Nathan, arranged to discuss the kids' summer plans. I wore my old blazer, playing the subdued wife he expected, but a recorder hummed in my purse. "Sophie's got your drive," I said, stirring my latte, my voice casual. Nathan smirked, scrolling his phone. "Good genes, I suppose." I leaned in, eyes soft but sharp. "Does she have your knack for hiding money, too?" Like those offshore accounts? His head snapped up, his smirk vanishing. "You don't know what you're talking about," he growled. "I did what I had to for the company for us." His words caught on tape were gold, an admission of financial deceit, a crack in his armor. I smiled, sipping my latte, my heart a quiet roar of triumph. Vince traced more accounts, Karen secured colleague affidavits, and Marissa connected me to other betrayed wives, each story a brick in my case. But this wasn't just about Nathan. It was about the system Westport's gilded cage, the corporate greed that let him thrive. I stood in my office, the USB drive in hand, the recorder's weight, a promise, and felt the shift. This wasn't vengeance. It was justice. I'm Emma, and this investigation wasn't just about exposing Nathan, it was about dismantling the lies that propped him up. Want to know what I learned about Lila's game? Her secrets next stay with me. I sat in a Westport cafe, the scent of roasted beans and overpriced pastries swirling around me. My laptop opened to Vince Russo's latest report, its pages, a map to the heart of Lila Brooks's deception, Nathan's betrayal, his affair, his $500,000 offshore accounts. His recorded confession had armed me with an ironclad case, but Lila was no mere bystander. She was a player in this game, her Instagram glow hiding a motive I needed to unmask. The prenup was my ace, but understanding Lila's endgame would sharpen my blade. I wasn't the Westport wife who'd wilt under gossip anymore. I was Emma Harper, a divorce attorney who'd toppled empires, and I was ready to face the woman who'd tried to steal mine. The cafe's polished wood tables and smug clientele seemed to whisper, "Don't make a scene, Emma." But scenes were my specialty now. Vince's report was a bombshell. Lila Brooks, born Lila Tanner, wasn't just a social media star with 1 million followers. She was a calculated predator, a woman who'd built her brand by targeting wealthy men, draining their wallets to fuel her luxury lifestyle. 5 years ago, she'd left a Chicago financier, bankrupt, his divorce splashed across tabloids, her name erased from the fallout. Now she'd set her sights on Nathan, his biotech empire a glittering prize. The report detailed her playbook cozying up at galas, staging candid Instagram posts to lure him, funneling his gifts $200,000 in jewelry, a leased Maserati through shell accounts tied to his offshore funds. I stared at a photo of Lila at Nathan's gala, her sequined gown catching every light, her smile a honed weapon, and felt a jolt of clarity. Her ambition mirrored my own drive. But where I'd built a career, she'd built a trap I couldn't resist confronting her. I tracked Lila to a sleek Westport bar, its mirrored walls reflecting her poised figure as she sipped a martini. Her cascading curls and bold lipstick, a stark contrast to my tailored blazer. She glanced up as I approached her smile, a flicker of amusement, then disdain. Emma Harper, she purred, her voice honeyed venom, the scorned wife. Come to beg for scraps, I slid Vince's report across the bar, its pages fanning out like a deck of marked cards. "I know your game, Lila," I said, my tone steady, eyes locked on hers. "Chicago the financier now, Nathan. You're not his savior, you're his leech." Her laugh was sharp, a blade glinting in the dim light. "You're out of your league." "Emma?" she sneered, leaning closer, her perfume sharp and cloying. Nathan needed a star, not a paper pusher. "I'm his future, you're just collateral damage." Her words cut, but her eyes, glittering with a hunger I recognized, held me fast. I'd come seeking an ally, a woman who might share my outrage at Nathan's lies. But Lila's greed was a wildfire consuming without remorse. We could expose him together. I offered my voice, faltering, testing the waters. His fraud, his accounts, end him. She leaned back, her smile a cruel crescent. "You're playing checkers, Emma. I'm playing chess. Nathan's mine to ruin." The rejection stung, not just for its venom, but for the mirror it held up. Was my fight for justice any purer than her chase for wealth? The Westport elite, with their whispered judgments, would have branded her a gold digger, a stereotype they'd wield against any woman too bold for their manicured world. But I saw her hunger, her hustle, and it haunted me. Had Nathan turned us both into pawns, or was I still writing my own moves? I left the bar with no alliance but a fiercer resolve. Lila's motive, plundering Nathan's empire for her own gain, was a thread in his web of deceit, but it wasn't my weapon. My fight was for Liam, Sophie for Marissa, and the women like us for the truth. I'd nearly lost to Nathan's lies. I stood in my penthouse, the rain streaking the windows like tears, and felt the weight of my choice to build a case not for revenge, but for redemption. Society expected me to bow, to let Nathan's charm rewrite my story. But I was rewriting his. I'm Emma, and Lila's game didn't break me. It lit a fuse. Want to know how I planned the final strike to topple Nathan's throne? The showdown's coming. Stay with me. The night of Nathan's biotech gala shimmered with promise. Its Westport ballroom, a cathedral of mirrored walls and cascading chandeliers, where Connecticut's elite swirled in tailored tuxedos and silk gowns. I stood at the crowd's edge, my sapphire dress a quiet defiance against the whispers of poor Emma, the jilted wife. Nathan was set to be crowned Innovator of the Year, a title dripping with irony only I could taste. For weeks, I'd woven a trap: Vince's offshore account, ledgers, Karen's bribery, evidence my recording of Nathan's confession, all delivered to federal agents, now poised in the shadows. Tonight wasn't just a gala. It was my courtroom, and I, Emma Harper, was ready to deliver a checkmate that would topple Nathan's $20 million empire. Every detail was orchestrated. Days earlier, I'd met Nathan's board in a clandestine office, its mahogany walls heavy with secrets, presenting a dossier of his crimes, $500,000 funneled to Lila's luxuries regulator bribes, masked as consulting fees. The board's faces usually smug with Westport privilege, blanched as my recorder played Nathan's voice, smug and damning. I did what I had to for the company. "This ends tonight," the chair had whispered, greenlighting a public fall. But Nathan, oblivious, held court near the stage, his arm slung around Lila Brooks, her emerald gown a bold echo of the ambition that had lured him. Her million-follower smile gleamed, unaware her gold-digging game was about to crash. Our eyes met a fleeting clash of two women who knew Nathan's true face, but my path was forged in justice, not greed. Nathan ascended the stage, his tuxedo impeccable, his grin a practiced mask as he clutched the crystal trophy. Innovation demands trust. He declared, his voice smooth as velvet, a bond between leader and legacy, guided by integrity. The crowd roared, but Lila's gaze flickered, her poised facade hiding the predator I'd unmasked. I slipped out my heels, clicking on polished marble, and headed to the rooftop bar where Nathan and Lila would retire post-gala, a chic Westport haunt with velvet booths and jazz humming softly. I tipped off Agent Caldwell the feds would follow their badges ready to strike. I entered the bar, the prenup clause in my clutch, a ticking bomb. Nathan and Lila sat in a corner booth, a bottle of 2008 Chateau Margaux between them, the same vintage we'd toasted on our 5th anniversary, a detail that twisted like a knife. The bartender, recognizing me from Nathan's corporate dinners, hesitated. "Mrs. Harper. Mr. Powell didn't mention—" I smiled, my voice steady. "I'm expected." Nathan spotted me first, his grin curdling into annoyance. "Emma," he said, his tone dripping condescension, "this is ill-timed." Lila's eyes narrowed, her emerald gown shimmering as she leaned forward, sensing a shift. "Stay, Lila," I said, my gaze pinning hers. "You've earned a front-row seat." I slid the envelope across the table, its weight heavier than the truth it carried. "Congratulations on your award, Nathan," I said, my voice a blade cloaked in silk. "But this is the legacy you've earned." His fingers trembled as he opened it, pulling out the prenup clause, 50% of his empire for infidelity, alongside Vince's ledgers and Karen's emails. His eyes darted across the page, his face collapsing from confusion to dread. "This is nonsense." He stammered, his voice a cracked whisper. "Is it?" I countered, calm as granite. "You cheated with Lila, hid 500 and Thonner-bribed regulators. The board knows Nathan, so do the feds." Lila's glass froze mid-air, her influencer poise shattering as she realized her game was over. Nathan's rage erupted. "You vindictive," he began, but Agent Caldwell, a federal officer with a badge glinting under the bar's amber lights, cut him off. "Nathan Powell, you're under arrest for financial fraud and bribery," he said, his voice steady as steel. The bar fell silent, patrons' eyes wide as handcuffs snapped around Nathan's wrists. Lila stood her gown pooling like spilled wine and tried to slip away, but Caldwell blocked her. "Ms. Brooks, you're needed for questioning." Her gaze met mine, a mix of fury and grudging awe. I didn't gloat I'd won, but the cost 10 years my kids' trust was a wound I'd carry forever. As agents led Nathan out, his trophy abandoned on the table, I felt no joy, only clarity. I'd played my ace and the board was mine. I'm Emma, and this showdown wasn't just a victory. It was my checkmate, a lawyer's gambit to reclaim my life. Nathan's empire fell, but the fallout would test me in ways I never imagined. Want to know how I rebuilt from the ashes of this night? The aftermath is next. Stay with me. I stood in my Westport backyard, the morning mist curling around my ankles, the air sharp with the scent of damp earth and quiet victory. The gala's chaos. Nathan's handcuffed exit. Lila's stunned retreat. The prenup that sliced his empire felt like a fever dream, though only weeks had passed. I'd toppled Nathan's $20 million kingdom, his lies laid bare in a blaze of federal charges and corporate disgrace. But triumph tasted less like champagne and more like ash. The ruins of my 10-year marriage shattered by his affair, his cruel dismissal of me as a failure, lay scattered at my feet. The Westport elite, with their sidelong glances at school fundraisers, branded me ruthless, a scorned wife who'd gone too far. But I wasn't here to revel in their whispers. I was Emma Harper, rebuilding my life. Brick by painful brick, and that fight was fiercer than any courtroom showdown. The fallout was swift and brutal. Nathan faced multiple felony counts, financial fraud, bribery, tax evasion. His CEO title stripped, his name smeared across headlines, from Forbes to local Westport blogs. A court-appointed accountant clawed back $8 million from his offshore accounts, securing a trust for Liam and Sophie's future. But money couldn't heal the deeper scars. I sat my kids down in our living room, the same space where we'd strung Christmas lights and read bedtime stories, and told them a truth I'd shielded them from. "Your dad made mistakes." I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest, "but you are my everything, always." Sophie, fierce at 12, squeezed my hand, whispering, "You're our hero, Mom." Liam, 14, stared at the floor, his silence a wound I couldn't mend. Had I saved their future or fractured their world? The question haunted me, a shadow. No victory could banish Lila's fate was quieter, but no less seismic. Her Instagram empire, built on Nathan's stolen dollars, crumbled as brands dropped her, her 1 million followers dwindling to whispers of gold digger. A DM arrived one foggy morning, her polished tone stark against the screen. "Emma, you played a better game. I underestimated you." No apology, just a grudging nod from a rival who'd lost her throne. I archived the message, its weight, a reminder of our shared ambition, our divergent paths. The Westport moms, with their yoga retreats and veiled barbs, painted her as the villain, a femme fatale too brazen for their manicured world. But I saw her hunger her fall and wondered if we'd ever escape Nathan's shadow. The biotech firm's collapse was my pivot. With Marissa, the Westport mom whose own betrayal mirrored mine, I co-founded Reclaim, a support group for women navigating divorce's wreckage. Our first meeting in a modest community center with folding chairs and tepid coffee drew 15 women, some from Marissa's network, others sparked by the headlines. Their stories, raw with loss and defiance, echoed mine, and I found purpose in their strength. But rebuilding wasn't just outward, Rachel. My paralegal appeared at my door one evening, her eyes soft. "I doubted you, Emma," she said, clutching a bottle of Pinot. "I thought you'd break, but you built something bigger." Her apology mended a rift I hadn't named, but the Westport mom's whispers, Emma's too fierce, now cut deep. Was I too much for their world, or was their world too small for me? I channeled my fire into a blog, unshackled, sharing stories of women rising from betrayal, its posts hitting 50,000 views in a month, each reader a spark in a growing blaze. But the deepest battle was within late at night, staring at the kids' old playroom. I wrestled with guilt. Had I traded their stability for justice? Westport wanted me silent, the perfect ex-wife who fades into charity boards. I chose to be Emma flawed, fierce free. The moms could keep their whispers. I was crafting a legacy for Liam, Sophie, for Marissa, for every woman told to shrink. I'm Emma, and this aftermath wasn't about glory. It was about roots rising strong from ruins. Want to know the lessons I learned to shield my future and yours? They're coming next. Stay with me. I stood in my Westport penthouse, the twilight painting, golden streaks across the hardwood, my journal open to a page, creased from months of scribbled truths, the Gala's wildfire, Nathan's arrest, Lila's unraveling the prenup that claimed half his empire had faded into echoes, but its scars lingered in my bones. I'd shattered. A Titan's Throne co-founded a support group, launched a blog that touched thousands, but the wounds of 10 years weren't healed by headlines or applause. The Westport moms with their pursed lips at soccer sidelines called me a victor one day, a vulture the next, their whispers a reminder that society craves a perfect wife but shuns a woman who dares to fight. Now I'm breaking the curtain. Emma Harper sharing 5 hard-won lessons to arm your future against the betrayals I nearly missed. These aren't just my scars. They're your shields forged in the crucible of truth. Lesson 1. Trust your instincts, they cut through deception. That first prickle when Nathan's cologne turned foreign wasn't paranoia. It was my gut screaming what my heart refused to hear. I ignored it, schooled by Westport's "don't rock the boat" mantra, and nearly lost my empire. My friend Claire wasn't so lucky. She dismissed her husband's late nights and found her accounts drained in a divorce. A 2024 Psychology. Today's study confirms 75% of women sense infidelity before evidence surfaces. Don't mute that signal. It's not doubt, it's your first shield. Lesson 2, lock down your finances before the storm breaks. Nathan siphoned $500,000 to Lila's luxuries, while I planned galas, assuming our joint accounts were sacred. I was lucky the prenup saved me, but I nearly hesitated, fearing it. Unromantic to open a separate account. Contrast that with Tina, a Westport mom who shared every dime with her ex and sold her car to cover rent. Forbes reported in 2024 that 65% of women lose significant assets in divorce due to shared finances. Open that account today. Money isn't just power, it's survival. Lesson 3. Document every detail. It's your fortress in the fight. My journal, filled with Nathan's texts, receipts, and that damning recording, was my lifeline in court. Every late night, every Lila's my match barb. I logged feeling obsessive, but knowing it was strength. I think of Sarah, a Reclaim member who trusted her exes will settle and had no proof when he hid assets. A 2023 X thread showed women winning custody with meticulous records. Start your log now. Every note is a stone in your wall. Lesson 4. Call a lawyer. Early delay is a trap. I contacted my team weeks before the gala when Lila's Instagram first flashed betrayal. Their advice: secure assets, log evidence saved my kids' trust fund. But I almost waited, thinking lawyers were for when it's over. Don't repeat my near mistake. A 2024 TikTok trend showed women losing homes by delaying counsel. I met a mom at Reclaim who waited too long and lost her savings. An hour with a lawyer can save a decade of regret. Make the call now. Lesson 5. Turn pain into purpose. It's your fiercest weapon. Nathan's betrayal could have buried me, but I channeled it into Reclaim, into Unshackled, into a voice for thousands. Every tear fueled a step forward, like Marissa, who turned her divorce into advocacy for others. The Westport moms wanted me quiet, fading into their charity luncheons. I chose to roar. A 2023 NPR story on women's empowerment showed pain, sparking reform. Your hurt isn't the end, it's the flame. What will you ignite with yours? I'm Emma, and these lessons aren't just scars. They're my armor carved from a marriage that lied and a truth that freed me. The Westport moms can whisper, but I'm not their silent wife anymore. I'm a woman who learned to shield her future, and I'm here to help you shield yours. Want to know how to join this fight and write your own story? The call is coming. Stay with me. I stood in my Westport penthouse, the twilight casting a golden veil over the skyline, the air alive with the scent of jasmine candles and hard-earned freedom. My journey from Nathan's venomous text that branded me a failure through the gala's blazing showdown to the ashes of a marriage reborn as Reclaim and Unshackled wasn't just a story of betrayal, it was a battle cry. A spark that ignited a support group, fueled a blog reaching thousands, and gave voice to women who'd faced the same shadows. The Westport moms, with their pursed lips at charity luncheons, called me too fierce, their whispers. A cage I'd shattered long ago. But as I gazed at Liam and Sophie's drawings pinned to the fridge, their trust, my true victory, I knew this fight wasn't mine alone. It's yours too, and I'm Emma Harper, inviting you to join a community that doesn't just survive betrayal, but soars beyond it. Welcome to TPT Affair Stories, where every scar becomes a story and every story becomes power. Let me tell you about Jessica, a woman who emailed me last month after reading Unshackled. She was me 3 years ago, standing in her kitchen, staring at a bank statement gutted by her husband's investments, her instincts screaming while her friends urged her to stay calm. Jessica wrote, "Your story gave me strength. Emma, I opened a separate account, started a journal, and hired a lawyer. I'm not invisible anymore." Her words hit me like a wave, not because I'd saved her, but because she'd saved herself, wielding the shields I'd forged. Trust your instincts, secure your money document, everything seek help early, turn pain into purpose. Jessica's fight began with a single click, a subscription to TPT Affair Stories, and it's reshaping her life. What's holding you back from claiming yours? Here's the small lesson I wish I'd known 10 years ago. Your truth is your fiercest ally, but only if you seize it. I almost didn't. I let Nathan's charm, the Westport mom's expectations, my own fear of making waves, silence me, nearly costing me my kids' future, my home, my voice. Society loves a silent woman, but it fears one who roars. When Nathan texted, "Talk to my lawyer," he thought I'd fade another perfect wife erased. Instead, I built a movement. You can too. Whether it's a notebook's first page, a lawyer's call, or a dream you've buried too long. But you don't have to fight alone. TPT Affair Stories is more than a channel. It's a sisterhood where women like Jessica, like me, like you, turn betrayal into beginnings. So, here's my call. If you've ever felt the sting of a lie, doubted your worth, or dreamed of rising fiercer, hit that red subscribe button on TPT Affair Stories. Right now, drop your story in the comments. Tell me the moment you trusted your gut or wished you had. Like this video, share it with a friend who needs to hear it and ring that bell so you don't miss what's next. Next week, I'm diving into how I scaled Unshackled through chaos with secrets to turn your pain into a platform. Don't miss it. The Westport moms can keep their cages. We're building something unstoppable. Join us and let's write your triumph together. Your truth is waiting. Seize it today.